You will hold your nose and vote tactically.
Well, you can choose your metaphor. I wouldn't choose holding your nose because there are clearly some elements of common attitude to politics and the Liberal Democrats, just as the way we treat Paddy Ashdown and Tony Blair in the 1990s. They still led separate parties, and they retained their distinctiveness, and there were differences between them. But they both believed in a broadly centre-left progressive alternative to the Conservatives, and therefore lots of voters believed that whichever progressive centre-left party was best placed locally to defeat the Tories. I think we're getting back to that point.
And do you see already we are seeing Suella Braverman, the Attorney General, and we've seen the Deputy Chairman of the Tory party accusing the opposition parties of secret, dishonest tactical voting. What is secret and dishonest about tactical voting?
Well, the other thing is that I think the charge is pretty nonsense. I think that the charge is supposed to be that behind closed doors, they're plotting with each other to work out which seats Labour fights hard in, as it did in Wakefield, and which seats the Lib Dems fight hard in, such as Tiverton and Honiton. The thing is, Rachel, with very, very few exceptions, it is blindingly obvious where Labour is going to put its resources and its efforts, and where the Lib Dems are going to put their resources and their efforts. You mentioned you live in Kensington. Curiously, Kensington is one of the very few seats where there is some debate as to which is the more effective anti-Conservative vote.
Because Labour held the seat last time round, but the Lib Dems were a Remain party, and it was a Remain constituency.
Exactly. But I don't really understand the seats, so now Britain has more than 600, where there is any real dispute. So the idea that you need a secret pact is nonsense. You need a secret pact when there is something really tough to negotiate. There's nothing tough to negotiate here. It's obvious where the Lib Dems are going to work. It's obviously where Labour is going to vote.
And to what extent? To what extent is the pattern of tactical voting simply going to replicate former electoral maps? For example, in the southwest was a Lib Dem stronghold, then they lost that during the coalition years. Ditto, the Red Wall was a Labour stronghold. They're going to just reclaim territory they lost to the Tories in 2019.
Well, to a large extent, because people will know, and the parties will tell them what the numbers were last time. But you see, in almost all Tory seats that are vulnerable, either the Labour or the Liberal Democrats, either Labour will last time have come relatively close, and the Lib Dems would have come miles away in third place, or in some parts of the southwest, which you mentioned, the Lib Dems would have been reasonably close last time, and Labour would have been miles away. I don't think there'll be much difficulty for voters to work out where to cast their vote if their main concern is to defeat the Conservatives.
And how do you think this foreshadows the general election? Do you think there will be organised tactical voting, or do you think that people will just work it out for themselves? Who is the stronger candidate? Who could beat the Tory in a reasonably marginal seat?
There is going to be organised tactical voting. If you mean by that, will there be websites and campaigns outside the
There were in the by-elections. There were in the by-elections, yeah.
I think Gina Miller, for example, did for those legal cases over Brexit, she will have to put resources into this. And the other people are not the best people campaign. And it could be doing campaigns outside the political parties saying, this is how you vote in this seat, this is how you vote in that seat. But nevertheless, Labour will put up a full slate of candidates, Brisbane everywhere, but the Dems will put up a full slate of candidates. It's simply, parties all partners have limited resources. They've got to decide which ones they're going to take seriously. And you don't need a secret pact to organise that.
And also, nobody has so far has GE majority of 80 plus on the back of tactical voting, because the Brexit party stood down its candidate, so they didn't split the vote for them.
Yeah, that's right. Can I mention one other thing, Rachel, about why this matters? See, remember back to 2017, the election when Theresa May, the Conservatives, got 318 seats, clearly the largest party, but had great difficulty forming a government. They couldn't get the Northern Irish and DUP on their side, but nobody else. Now, the arithmetic of a British politics is the Conservatives need something like 315 or 316 seats to have any chance of remaining in office. The Labour Party could be 50 or 60 seats behind, but if the Tory Party can't get to 315 or thereabouts, they are out, which means losing, if they lose 50 seats from the last time, they're out.
Is that because they wouldn't be able to go into coalition with the DUP or anyone else? Whereas Labour could go into coalition with Lib Dems?
Well, I don't think Labour would even need a coalition, but the Tories, if they tried to
form a government.
If they try to form a government, they would fail on the Queen's Speech vote. So the Tories, if they lose 50 seats or more, they're out. Now, I think it's pretty likely on the national swing, they're pretty likely to lose 20, 30, 40 seats, right? But if tactical voting costs them another 20 or 30, which I think is very likely, that could make the difference between the Conservatives just about having enough seats to hang on and being thrown out. That's why tactical voting, I think, could actually matter in terms of the outcome of the next general election.
That sounds as if it's certain to swing the outcome. So last question to you, Peter, is I did notice, I was reading a report in the Express about kind of how, dishonest it was to vote tactically, and I noticed that they described Lib Dems and the Labour Party as the two pro-EU parties, and that suggested to me that, again, as we go into a general election, the governing Conservative parties who got Brexit done will use probably or attack tactical voting as a sort of coalition of pro-EU parties and try and use it as a wedge issue to establish themselves as the party that wants to keep Brexit done. Possible?
I'm sure they'll try. I think they'll fail on two grounds. The first ground is that neither Labour nor the Liberal Democrats are going to take Britain back into the EU in the foreseeable future, which I mean 5, 10, 15 years. I mean, that's simply not going to happen, right? But the second is, and we can get onto a much longer discussion, you and I, they won't be a coalition of any sort. Even if Labour is the second largest party, it'll be able to carry on quite comfortably as a minority government without doing any coalition deals on Europe with the Lib Dems or on electoral reform, without doing any coalition deals with the Scottish nationalists on an independence referendum. The way our parliamentary system works, going back to the old system of dissolving parliaments and dissolution and prime ministers having power, you could well get a Labour minority government, 40 seats, 50 seats, fewer than Conservatives, and they'll be able to carry on for quite a while.
Well, we'll wait and see. Thank you very much for your time this evening. That was Peter Kellner, political commentator, pollster, and also former president of YouGov. This hour, I'm asking you, given the return of tactical voting, is that what you're going to do in the next general election? If there was a snap election, maybe tomorrow, how would you vote? 0345 6060 973. Your calls after the break. You're listening to Rachel Johnson on LBC, and the time is 7:18.
LBC.
First up in today's tour, a modern masterpiece, the new Italian stack from McDonald's. A carefully crafted burger over 2 delicious beef patties, mozzarella, and a splash of rich tomato sauce. An edible work of art. And over here in the collection, the exquisite crispy chicken Italiano. A delectable crispy chicken breast prepared beautifully with a basil pesto style sauce. Perfection.
Holiday from home with the McDonald's summer menu. Available until the 26th of July. From 11 a.m, participating restaurants subject to availability.
People need answers when they call Macmillan, so you really need to be able to get things done. If a patient says they're worried about money, I make sure they're getting every benefit they're entitled to. If they're anxious about a partner's treatment, we'll get them counselling. I even sorted a patient's partner trick the other day. I mean, that's the last thing they needed on their plate. I do what I have to do. So if I have to ask you to make a donation, it isn't going to faze me either. You can do that now at macmillan.org.uk. Macmillan Cancer Support. Whatever it takes.
Today's tale begins when Sarah was scrolling through her feed. Suddenly, Sarah heard a mysterious sound.
The Wi-Fi is down.
Sarah was trapped by the spinning wheel of doom.
Save yourself from broadband nightmares. Get BT's unbreakable hybrid broadband backed up
Rachel, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's quite an interesting point what you make. I think the key points, in my personal opinion, are the Conservatives have been quite quiet about the deal they did in the 2019 election.
I just mentioned it, yeah, but carry on.
This party, but I think also surely it's up to the elector to decide if they go to the voting box, if they know, they can decide.
Absolutely.
It's up to them whether they want to vote for the party they normally do. If they're happy to send the vote, surely it's, power to the person, isn't it?
Well, you say it's up to the voter, but let's say you were a Brexit Party member in 2019. You wouldn't have had a chance to vote for a Brexit Party candidate because Nigel Farage didn't stand them against the Tories.
No.
So it's not always up to the voter because these things can be decided by the leadership of the party.
Well, no, but I suppose in counter to that, the Labour and the Liberal Democrats, they have both standard in MP, haven't they? Like how much campaigning they've done. I don't know. I don't live in either of those constituencies, but I'm just saying that Conservative media are going after this so-called electoral impact, but they're keeping very quiet, aren't they, about what they did in 2019?
They are for reason. I wonder if the three main parties will stand candidates' perspectives in all the seats, or whether they'll actually make it very clear that they've decided to do unofficially or officially. I suppose if they don't stand a candidate, it makes it official that tactical voting is in play, doesn't it?
Yeah, the answer will become clear, won't it? The next election, I guess, so we'll have to wait and see, won't we?
So tell us about your constituency and what you're minded to do.
I live in Ilford North, Rachel, so my MP is Wes Streeting.
Okay, he's the Labour Shadow Health Minister.
He is, but just for my own personal sense, he's a very good constituent MP, and I actually knew him when he was councillor in Redbridge, so I would personally vote for him rather than his party, whether he changed parties or stood as an independent.
And what's Wes's majority?
Well, I think off the top of my head, they took about 5,000.
Okay. So you're in a reasonably safe Labour seat, so tactical voting is not likely in that seat.
No,
okay.
Not, I would say, based on that. So.
You're right, by the way, it's 5,000.
Oh, okay, good to remember something then.
Thanks very much, Alex. Let's go to Khalid in Leicestershire, in Leicester, indeed. Khalid, what about you? Same question as I just asked Alex.
Yeah, Rachel. The thing is, if it means tactical voting is a means of an honest government with integrity, empathy, real empathy for the people, then why not? I mean, at this moment in time, it's like voting for the lesser of the two evils, the way politics is at the moment. It's like, it's very difficult to cast your vote in any direction right now. I mean, there's many policies which I completely abhor and I find appalling. For example, the Rwanda one of recent times.
So you're a none of the above, are you? I mean, when you get into the ballot box, what are you going to do if you don't like any of them?
No, when you say don't like any of them, I mean, you've got to see which is the least decent, honest, and the government that can lead by example. That's what we need. We don't need people to tell us what to do and do the opposite. In practice, we need a government who's going to lead by example, who's honest with the people, who has real empathy for the people. I mean, the policies of the local policies, national and international policies right now are left much to be desired for. They're lacking, completely lacking. Like I said, the Rwanda policy, for example, right now, I find that appalling. Not only is just that, but there's many policies which I think, the Rwanda policy, for example, the Conservatives seems to be all for the Rwanda policy. I think that, that is appalling. And not only I think that, the Home Office... Yeah, sorry.
But on Rwanda, the Labour Party has opposed that policy, and the Lib Dems have as well. So at least, if that's the thing that's really turning you off the Tories, you could say to yourself, when you had to put your cross in a box, well, at least Labour opposes the Rwanda policy. But you say that none of the parties have any appeal to you, and you don't see any good in any of them.
It would have to be like a tick box, selection basically. Of all the main policies that we have, as far as housing is concerned, as far as immigration is concerned, as far as the cost of living is concerned, it has to be a tick box thing basically, and see which parties are going to be better for the people. Right now, like I said, as far as Rwanda is concerned, you know, they can't. I find that appalling because, you know, you can't have somebody who is somebody in the Home Office who's very close to Modi, who's a product of the RSS, which is a fascist paramilitary group founded in 1925, which based their whole policy on Nazism.
Hold on, you're losing me, Khalid. By the way, just on the Rwanda policy, we've just seen the Commonwealth heads of government meeting in Kigali over the last few days, and I think it's not my joke, but there have been more Tory politicians have got to Rwanda than deported asylum seekers over the past few days. So Rwanda policy is not, let's not dignify with the name policy. It's still in the works, isn't it? It's an idea.
It's an idea which is very, very costly. And if you ask any third world country, we'll give you 125 million pounds. Everybody will jump back. In fact, they'll be fighting for that. So it's a bribe basically to do our dirty work, and I find that appalling.
Thank you very much.
Just that. Yeah.
Khalid, just before I let you go, Leicester, who's the MP?
John Ashworth.
He's a Tory.
Yeah.
No, sorry, he's Labour.
John Ashworth is John Ashworth.
And is he a good local MP? Are you voting for him?
He's a good local MP. Like I said, I'm not going to knock anybody particularly like that. I mean, he's a good MP.
I can see where I think this is going. And he's got a majority of, do we know, pretty solid 6,000, 7,000?
I'm not sure the figures tell you the truth, right? But I'm saying, okay. He's somebody who listens. That's the thing. Even though the policies, there's a room for improvement in every party, in everybody, every individual. There's always room for improvement, and we need to be working towards that.
Well, you're in a very safe Labour seat. John Ashworth's majority is 23,000, so I can't imagine. It must be one of the safest Labour seats in the country. Thanks so much. Let's go to David in Enfield. David.
Good evening, Michelle. Hope you're well.
I'm very well. And are you going to vote tactically?
Well, I have a problem that many of my close friends have, which is we're traditional Tories, and we don't recognise Boris Johnson's group of sycophants as the Conservative Party any longer. We think the Conservative Party has died, and it's morphed into an English nationalist personality cult, which is sort of coagulated around your brother.
Coagulate is a very good word, David. I'm going to use that.
See, the problem I have is I'm a traditional Tory. I'm a centre-right, one-nation, globalist Tory.
I think probably, can I just say, speaking as he's not here to defend himself, as he's at the G7, I think that's how you would describe himself.
Well, hang on a second, because to me the basic principles of central conservatism are basically a government that serves the people, not lines its own pockets, that makes sure the nation has a strong defence. We have a growing economy, which we haven't had for the last 10 years.
What economy?
We have a growing economy.
Yep.
We have increased living standards. Real wages for the average worker today are where they were pre the financial crash in 2007. We need the business environment that encourages things like innovation, thrift, hard work. Not what your brother said a few months ago. F business. We need price stability. We've got inflation. We need efficient public services. We've got 6 million waiting on the NHS for operations. We want low taxes. We've got high taxes.
Okay, David, can I just interrupt you? Yeah, but we can't have a long list of the government's failures when these things are not these are not problems and situations completely created by this government. For example, the NHS waiting lists post-pandemic.
Well, hang on a second. The NHS was in a mess before we went into COVID. COVID has just exacerbated. Brexit, COVID, and now the Ukraine situation have exacerbated a lot of weakness that was already developing. It's unfortunate for him. It's bad timing for him, but it's events, dear boy, events. But all I'm saying is I don't recognise this as a Conservative Party, so I can't vote for it. So I'm politically homeless, and I've got many, many friends who are good, sound, intelligent Conservatives who are in the same boat. And they will never vote for Boris and his English nationalists. So won't do.
Okay, so you're echoing what Lord Frost said after the by-election results, which was he said that he claimed that the Tories lost because Tories didn't come out and vote Tory. David, thank you very much for your call. Well, will you, unlike David, who doesn't sound like he's going to vote at all, are you going to vote tactically at the next general election? If there was a snap one tomorrow, how would you vote? 0345 6060 973. More of your calls after the break, but first it's time for the news with Tim Humphrey.
The Prime Minister has failed to appear at a press conference at the G7 summit in Bavaria. Downing Street has cited scheduling issues, but reporters have suggested to LBC there may have been a falling out with the US and Canada over energy policy. South Africa's president has expressed his condolences over the deaths of 22 teenagers at a pub there. He's also concerned about the reported circumstances of why they were at a venue which should be off limits to under 18s. England's cricketers are in with a good chance of completing victory in the third test against New Zealand and sealing a 3-0 series win. They're on 183 for 2 in their chase of 296 to win. Ollie Pope's unbeaten on 81 with Joe Root 55 not out. Admission at Headingley is free tomorrow. And the weather, rain and showers in the west. They will edge slowly eastwards tonight, although far eastern parts will remain mostly dry with clear spells. It's a low of 8.
This is LBC. That's the silky sound of a backing singer who's just found the better way to sell their car using Kazoo. They went online and got an instant guaranteed price that Kazoo won't chip away at.
Guaranteed price.
Kazoo can pick up their car from their door and even pay them on the same day.
Compare the same day payment. Yeah, yeah.
Can you sell your car in a better way? Kazoo, yeah you can.
Hello, I'm Albert Einstein. If you already have a smart meter, this is excellent. Because by my calculations, if everybody in Britain gets one, we could save the equivalent CO2 as roughly 70 million trees. That must be good for the planet, huh? I mean, you don't have to be, me to work that out.
Search Get a Smart Meter today. CO2 savings between 2013 and 2034 based on the government forecast for the smart meter rollout. Consumer action required. Eligibility may vary. Transport for London is proposing to extend the ultra-low emission zone London-wide in August 2023. Most drivers have compliant vehicles and would not pay the ULEZ charge. Drivers of non-compliant vehicles would have to pay £12.50 to drive within Greater London each day. We'd also like your views on how we shape the future of road user charging. This is part of our commitment to help improve air quality, tackle the climate emergency and reduce traffic congestion. To see all our proposals and have your say, search TfL Clean Air. Consultation ends 29th of July. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Everyone's got an ex-doppelganger, someone that looks like you. I even shop like you. And we both know how to make the most of our shopping. The Nectar card.
No, the Nectar app.
Eh? With Nectar you can collect and spend points at Argos and Sainsbury's.
But with the app, there's also personalised discount, bonus points on products you buy most at Sainsbury's, plus hundreds of brands to discover and collect points at, like eBay, Esso and Just Eat.
What?
Nectar. Get the app, get more. Personalised discounts require smart shop. Exclusions apply. For full T's and C's, visit nectar.com/app-terms.
This is LBC with Rachel Johnson. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
Welcome back. We're talking about tactical voting because we saw the evidence of the by-elections this week is that Liberal Democrats will vote for Keir Starmer, and Lib Dems will vote for Keir, and obviously Labour voters will vote for Ed Davey if that is going to achieve the desired result. But my question to you is 0345 6060 973. Going forward into a general election, are you prepared to vote tactically and maybe lend your, as it were, trying to think of the right word, your sort of historic vote to another party in order to get what you want? Let's talk to Sarah in Bude in Cornwall. Good evening, Sarah, on this lovely June evening.
Hello, Rachel. Well, what I've got to say that I will stick with Boris and he will get my vote. But we're in North Cornwall, and what my worry is that Scott Mann is our local MP.